Hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to another live Manchester United show. We're going to be talking about all the latest news. We're going to be talking about the Chelsea game, your thoughts on that. And I have to say, it was a pretty crap game, but I actually do think that we probably did enough to win that game and could have walked away with 3 points. So I guess we can take that as a positive. A very good performance from Mazraoui as well. Casemiro has a go at Garnacho. We'll talk about Garnacho, everything going on with him. Lisandro Martinez sort of being attacked by the media slamming and writing reports on Lisandro Martinez. I think, Man United player, they've got to be negative about something. And then just in general, I want to also say the fact that Man United drew 1-1 and the media is just there criticising United, when surely Chelsea should be more annoyed that they've gone to Old Trafford against one of the worst United sides in ages, drew 1-1, and actually Man United could have won that game, but the media aren't talking about Chelsea. They're just slamming United. Guess what? We've got a new manager coming in next week. It's like the media just love to slam United as much as they can and not talk about Chelsea. We're just slamming United. But it's like, well, look, we aren't good. We know we're not good. But actually, we could have beaten Chelsea, and we're going to get a new manager to come in and hopefully turn things around. That's just my opinion. But we will talk about the Chelsea game. We will talk about the news. I want to talk about Ruud van Nistelrooy, his future. Some players want him to stay. Reports, leaks of player power, player control. But also, we want to get into what Sir Jim Ratcliffe had to say. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has had a few words to say about this Manchester United squad, about this Manchester United team. And I have to say, Ratcliffe was pretty brutal, wasn't he? So, let's dive into all of the news. But first of all, guys, please do go ahead and hit that like button if you have not already. And of course, subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football if you're new and want to stay up to date on all the latest Manchester United news. We are on 96,780 subscribers. We're 20 subscribers away from 96.8k. So it'd be amazing if we can hit that, closing down on 97k as we're on that final stretch to 100,000 subscribers, baby. What a journey it has been. But as you can see, one sec. As you can see on the screen, here are some metrics about United that I wanted to cover and I wanted to discuss before I get into the news and stuff as well, which is basically about our underperformance and attack. Hello, I like how you make notes. Appreciate that. I try and make notes before I go live so then I can share it on my screen. I think for me, I wanted to just do something different to everybody else. Rather than just talking about news, I wanted to make sure that you could see the news on the screen. You can have the quotes there, you can have the statistics there, so that way you know that I'm not, one, making it all up, but two, you can see the source, you can see the information. But Man United are 18th in the Premier League for goals, 20th for XG performance, minus 7.8, making us the least clinical team in the league, 19th for shot conversion, and 20th for big chance conversion. We really do not like to finish our chances, as you can see by these statistics here. It does not look good for United as well. Alice, what's Ratcliffe really think of the United players? Look, I think Ratcliffe does not rate our players. We will discuss that in a second. I think Ratcliffe was right to say what he said. At the end of the day, I like our players and I like some of them, but we're nowhere near winning a Premier League. So if we're nowhere near winning the Premier League, they're not good enough to play for United, a lot of them. That's the truth of the matter. So Ratcliffe, you could say Ratcliffe was brutal, but we will discuss that in a second as well. He slammed some of the players as well, but he reveals what he really thinks of Man United players and the club's biggest issue. Amidst all the deadwood and flotsam, what's that? What a diamond and treasure we have in Mazraoui. He's been blown away by how good he is. He was absolutely monumental yesterday. We will talk about Mazraoui. I think the two best players on the pitch for Chelsea was Caicedo, and for Manchester United was Mazraoui. Not just defensively, but going forward, he's been fantastic. I just don't think Mazraoui's really put a foot wrong in a United shirt. I don't think he had his best game versus Liverpool, but I look at Mazraoui and I actually think he's not had a game where I'm like, he was bad. He's good on the ball. He's good off the ball. His positional sense is good. He can get up the wing. He can move it forward. He can defend well. He's not like a Trent Alexander-Arnold, Reece James, where he's really good going forward, but he's solid. Like, he's versatile, he's solid, he will do a job. I really do like Mazraoui. I agree with that as well. So someone said some of the players, we have had 3 to 4 different Man United managers. And I'm going to say this now, and this might be a little bit more on the controversial side. I don't think the issue with Manchester United is the players that have been under 4 or 5 managers. I know Luke Shaw's been under multiple managers, Rashford's been under multiple managers. I get that. I don't actually think that they're necessarily the issue, because there's a lot of Villa players that have been there under 6, 7 managers, and Villa are having the best ever period. I don't actually think it's certain. I don't think because this player's been there under so many managers, they're the issue. I just think there's a collective of players, some that are new, some that are old, that are not good enough to play for Manchester United, don't have what it takes to play for Manchester United, and therefore need to be moved on, is my opinion. But going into the attack, going into the front line, it really does reek at the moment. It is not good enough. 9 goals so far this season. It's 1 goal versus Chelsea, it was a penalty. We had 4 big chances versus Chelsea. We had enough to finish off that game and we couldn't. We've underperformed at XG so much that I thought hopefully it was just a blip in the first 3 games of the season. We'll catch up. No, we're not catching up. We're not doing enough in attack. And this is what I have to talk about Amorim quickly here. I really like Ruben Amorim. I think Ruben Amorim is a good coach, and I think with time he can do a good job at United. But when you look at metrics like this, you have to say in regards to Ruben Amorim, okay, look, he's not a magician. And I know Ten Hag said he's not a magician when he first joined up, but Ruben Amorim's not a magician. If our players can't score, no matter if they're playing under Ruud, no matter if they're playing under Erik Ten Hag, they might not be able to score under Amorim. We've got to take that in mind, that Amorim can do all he wants, but at the end of the day, these players need to step up. Ten Hag needed to go. I think Ten Hag was not doing good enough, in my opinion. We were 14th. He needed to go. He needed to be moved on. But it's not that Ten Hag goes and everything's fixed. It's still that some of these players are not good enough. And this is what Ratcliffe talks about. And this is what Ratcliffe gets into more detail about as well. I think, it's not something Amorim's going to come in and change right away. Guys, please do that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. But I want to talk about what Sir Jim Ratcliffe has had to say on the Manchester United players here as well. It was said, reporter said this: can you take anything away from the campaign in sailing with Manchester United? Which is interesting. And Jim Ratcliffe said this: I think there's one little crossover, which is that you cannot win America's Cup unless you arrive at America's Cup with a boat that could win America's Cup, is what he's saying in regards to the sailing. It was then said that same in Formula 1, Max Verstappen in a Williams, he's not going to win Formula 1 championship. With football, it's the same with the squad in that way. That's a parallel to me. You can't win anything in football if your squad isn't good enough to win something. The quality of the squad is a bit like the speed of the boat. That's the only parallel, is what he said in regards to, Ineos. And obviously, if you're aware of Ineos, obviously they do like this boat racing thing, sailing campaign. That's what it is. He's revealing Ineos and the sailing, and then he's sorry, one sec. I just need to. I've got this. What? Okay, sorry. You got my attention now. Sorry, something just came up on my laptop, and my laptop was gonna restart itself. I didn't want that to happen mid live stream, but basically, what Jim Ratcliffe is saying is, if you're competing in sailing and your boat isn't very good, well, you're not going to win. Even if you have the best sailors in the world, you're not going to win. The boat isn't good. So Amorim could be the best manager in the world, but if his players aren't very good, he's not going to win anything. And basically, Jim Ratcliffe basically came out and said, this United squad isn't good enough to win anything. And some people are annoyed about that, but I don't know why. I think Paul describes this quite well. Seeing some fans having a pop at Sir Jim for saying the squad isn't good enough to win the league. He's 100% correct. This squad is miles away from winning the league, and it's definitely a good thing that he can see that. Jim Ratcliffe has basically come out and said, yep, this Man United team isn't good enough to win the league, and Sir Jim Ratcliffe has hit the nail on the head, in my opinion. I think he's right. We're not good enough to win the league. Let's be honest. And I think the fact that he can see that, and he can see that the squad is nowhere near good enough, I think is a good thing for United, because it's not an owner that's going to say, oh, everything's sorted, we're fine. We're not going to do anything in January, we're fine, which is what the Glazers would do. He wants to win the league. He doesn't want to be top 4 merchants like the Glazers or what Arsenal were. He wants to win the league. And he knows that to win the league, we're going to need a lot of improvement. He's got Amorim, that is good, but he knows that Amorim isn't a magician. So I think the fact that Sir Jim Ratcliffe can see that this squad isn't good enough is a good thing, because I know that he has probably the ambition, if we can, in regards to FFP and stuff, to spend a bit in January, to spend a bit of summer in the summer. And I will say this now, in my opinion, getting recruitment right is so key. I think there's a manager in Amorim. I do think we have some good players at the squad. I think when you look at recruitment, I know obviously Ten Hag was probably one of the main reasons behind the signing, but Mazraoui was a gem in terms of recruitment, an absolute gem, wasn't Mazraoui? You know, Yoro's a gem in terms of recruitment, I believe. Garth, I guess, with Amorim coming in will be a good move, but there was definitely question marks around him. I mean, it is about getting recruitment right, because we spent £55 million on Mason Mount that is still injured after he came on for 10 minutes and got a concussion. We spent £85 million on Anthony. I think Casemiro's, bar the Liverpool game, I think Casemiro's actually had a good season. But we also spent 60 odd million on Casemiro. We also spent, ridiculous amounts of money on players that are not maybe good enough. And I think Ashworth, Vivel, Barada, they've got a big job on their hands, because cool, we've got the manager in now, but we know the players aren't good enough, and it's about getting the recruitment over the next few years spot on. It can't be pitch perfect. Look, Manchester City have taken a few L's, Carvin Phillips. Arsenal, who've got recruitment quite good in recent years, have taken the odd L, like Lukonga, Sinchenko. Maybe short term was good, but long term probably wasn't good enough. We will take L's, but if we can get recruitment right, which is something we haven't done under any manager, under Amorim, for me, that is the most important thing as well. Because, look, we aren't scoring goals at the moment. I don't think Højlund is getting a lot of service, if I was going to be totally honest. I don't think he is. I think Højlund with service can score. I generally think this. If you get Højlund and Rashford close to goal and you give them service, I think they will put those chances away. I think they could score. I think they can impact the game in a positive way. And maybe that's some things that Amorim will do to change that, hopefully, going forward as well. Someone said Garnacho is not good enough to start for United yet, period. I think Garnacho, for me, I'm not going to be reactionary of one game and say Garnacho is not good enough to start for United, but what I will say on Garnacho is we're not doing him any favours making him the left winger who now plays 90 minutes, who now starts every game, because I think that does him no favours for his development. He's 20 years of age. I think there's a good player in Garnacho, and I think at times he's deserved the start, but also I think when he's not putting his chances away, he shouldn't be untouchable. He was having a stinker on the right, so he swaps with Rashford to the left. Rashford should be the guy that plays on the left. He is the left winger. He's the most experienced guy. He's the left winger. And if he's crap, Garnacho comes off the bench on the left wing to replace him. Half time, 30 minutes to go. That's calm. Garnacho and Amma, for me, should compete for the right wing. Garnacho had a really good start to the season in the first sort of 5 games because he was coming off the bench and having to make an impact and prove a point. And then he'd start a game, come off the bench for 2 games, start a game, come off the bench for 2 games. I felt that actually, for Garnacho's own development, there's no point playing him every game and running him down to the ground. I think if you do rotate with Ahmad, it'd be good for his own development. I think Elise would have been a really good addition for United, because Elise and Rashford can be the wingers, but we can also incorporate Garnacho and Ahmad to help them with their development. I like Garnacho. I think he's a good player, but I think he's wasteful. And I think the fact that now he's the left winger that has to play 90 minutes of every game isn't going to help him. I don't think that he's not good enough for United or anything like that. I think there's question marks around how he fits into Amorim's system, if I'm going to be totally honest. I like Garnacho. I think he's good. I think he always wants to make something happen, go forward. And I thought he was actually one of our best players in the game against Leicester. So I understand why he started today. But what I don't understand is why Rashford has to go on the right to accommodate the younger player, and why Rashford has to come off and he has to stay on and get 90 minutes. And this has happened the last few games. I think for Garnacho's development, if he plays on the right, gets subbed on, gets subbed off, it would be better for him and make it a bit more competitive. Amorim. I think Garnacho should be starting based on form as well. And I think, I think there's a good player there, but I think he's raw. Those missed chances really reflect how much development and coaching our team needs now. There are lots of talent, but 100%, but need to be excellent at basics, 100%. And hopefully that's something that Amorim and his coaches will work on as well. We lack end product. Our strikers are crap, and inverted wingers would never pass and go for glory. I mean, look, I think Højlund's good. I think Xerxes being misprofiled, and I'm not going to write him off now. I think that Højlund needs service. I think the attack as a whole isn't good enough, and that needs to be worked on as well. So yeah, I think, Garnacho should have been subbed off, but I'm not going to turn on Garnacho. I'm not going to turn on Garnacho, but I do think the attack as a collective is not good enough. Richard said this, and I agree. Højlund was quite good yesterday. He held up the ball well. He got no protection from the referee and should have won a lot more free kicks. He would have scored if he got the chance. Cirks, I'm not sure about the last bit because I think Caicedo did do very well. But I think Højlund had a very good. I'm not going to say very good game, but I think that Højlund did what he could do because there wasn't really much for him to do in the sense of his job. He did. The players around him didn't do their job, which is to give Højlund the ball in a good area. That's what we didn't do. And I agree. I think Højlund was okay. I think, we need to improve in attack. I think we need a bit more versatility on the wings. I do look and think, Elise is what we need right now. Anthony's basically gone. He's non-existent. Ahmad is young. Garnacho is young. There's rarities there. We know Rashford's a good player, but with Rashford, you just don't know what Rashford's going to turn up this season. Yeah, I think Elise would have been someone that would have been nice to have as well. I'm happy to see Ahmad start in Europe. Be interesting to see if Ahmad gets a start in. But the thing is, I want Garnacho to be dropped and Ahmad to start on the right, Rashford to start on the left. And then if Rashford has a bad game, you sub Garnacho on 30, 40 minutes to go. And then that gives Garnacho that desire and hunger to make a point. I generally think that is our best situation right now. And then if Garnacho does really well a couple of times coming off the bench, you reward him with a start. If he looks good when he starts, you reward him with another start. But I think, making Garnacho undroppable isn't going to help him or his development at the club, which is what I agree with as well. Højlund's not great at taking up good positions. I think that's something, again, that Højlund can work on. I think there's a good player in Højlund, but I actually do agree with Rich. I think sometimes he could improve positionally. I think we do have some good players that have bits of their games they need to improve, and I think a good coach can do that. But I also think we have some players that are not good enough, and we need someone in recruitment to help with that as well. But I want to talk about Bruno and what Bruno said on Amorim and everything in regards to Amorim going forward. So Bruno Fernandes said this on Ruben Amorim. I watch all sporting games. They are my team, so I know how they play. But you never know how the manager's going to do it because they have different players. So Bruno Fernandes is someone that will be familiar with Amorim, be familiar with Amorim's system, and probably be well liked under Amorim when he first comes in. Now, my biggest question is, where does Bruno play under Amorim? Does he play in attack? Does he play in midfield? I don't quite know how Bruno 100% fits in under Ruben Amorim. That will be interesting to see. But he's aware of Ruben Amorim. He watches all of the sporting games. He obviously came from Sporting, Bruno. I think it'll be interesting to see how Ruben Amorim uses players, because we can assume what Ruben Amorim's system is and what he might do. But there's a very different crop of players at United. There's a lot of injuries at the back. And if you want to play a back five, there's a lot of injuries there. We don't have a left back. We're very low on centre backs. I know Lenny Yoro's set to return in 2 weeks to the United. But it is going to be really interesting to see what Ruben Amorim does at United. And I think Bruno said, as someone that watches a lot of Sporting, he doesn't really know. He knows Amorim, he knows his system, but he doesn't really know. So I'm excited for Amorim to come in, but I think there's going to be a few surprises as well. I don't think Amorim would put Garnacho as a starter. Now, I'm not saying this because Garnacho's been bad last game. I'm not saying this to be reactionary, but I said this if you go back to my video I made last week about Ruben Amorim and United, I said the words, basically, Garnacho doesn't 100% fit Ruben Amorim. Ruben Amorim likes narrow attackers. Now, Ahmad at Sunderland played sort of as a wide number 10, if I can explain that. He was playing almost like as a right-sided 8. He was in the half space. He was quite narrow for a winger. Marcus Rashford plays his best game as almost like a left forward for United, where he's not got quite the defensive duties of a winger, but he's a bit further up and a bit narrow on the pitch, but he's still out wide because his hold-up plays in a striker. So Rashford and Ahmad suit a little bit of what Amorim wants to do. Højlund really suits it. Xerxes maybe could work as a shadow striker, but I think he could play Bruno in that role. The question is Garnacho and Anthony, and I think Anthony is just over at United because he's not been good enough, blah, blah, blah. Garnacho is a good and exciting player, and I can understand United wanting him to be a key part of the future because we've got to think about Garnacho's potential, all of that. For me, there is a good and exciting player in Garnacho, but he's a wide winger. He's a touchline winger. Amorim likes narrow forwards. He doesn't utilise touchline wingers like Ten Hag. And that's the big difference, because although Amorim's direct and Garnacho allows you to play direct, he's a direct kind of winger. He's a wide winger. He's a touchline winger. And it's very different to what Amorim does use. So I think there'll be question marks around Garnacho, for sure, in terms of Amorim's system. Could he even be utilised as a wing-back? I don't think he'd like that as well. The difference is, Alice, Chelsea young, up and coming, Man United are dead. Yes, we threw away 2 points against you lot yesterday. We were very poor. Chelsea are very young, and that's what comes in consistency. But United are also very young. You know, we have one of the youngest teams in the league. Hoyland's 20, Garnacho's 20, Ahmad's 22, I'm going to say. You know, we've got players like Euros who come in that are 18. Maino's obviously 19. You know, Agate's only, 21, 22, isn't he? Xerxes 22 or 23. You know, United do also have a very young team. I mean, Chelsea, you can see what Chelsea are trying to do with Maresca, and I think watching Chelsea this season, they've been a lot better than United. I think they will finish top 4. I think they've got a good team, and I think there's inconsistencies there, whereas United have just generally been crap. But I would say that United have a young, raw and unpolished team as well. I wouldn't say that's just Chelsea. Ruben will not buy any players from Sporting until the end of the season. Hopefully he buys the whole team. I don't want him to buy the whole team. Diamonde I like. Kuenda I like. Inacio maybe, but I'm not that fussed about him. Human maybe, but I'm not that fussed about him. Jokeres I like. And Diamonde I like. And then obviously the young winger I like. They're the 3 probably standout names to me as well. Where's our number 7? We don't even talk about Mason Mount anymore. I like to be as positive and nice as I can about Mason Mount. I do. Because I actually do rate Mason Mount. Like, I like him as a player. I liked him at Chelsea. But Mr. Sick Note, isn't he? It's crazy as well. What did you think of the ref yesterday, Alice? I think it was Mazraoui that was fouled, and then he gave Chelsea a free kick in like the stoppage time in like the 90th minute. That made me almost go mental as well. Garnacho should learn to pass the ball to Hoyland, and this is why I liked Garnacho on the right, because he had to pass a bit more. All of our best chances seem to fall to Garnacho, and he's one of our weakest finishers. And I will say this, and I stick up for Rashford on this channel, and people say, oh, Alice, are you being paid by Rashford's PR team and stuff? Everyone knows I like Rashford, and I don't think he's been at his best for a while, but Garnacho on the left had a strop, throwing his arms up. He didn't want to be on the right, got moved to the left. Yeah. Garnacho didn't track back. Casemiro shouts at him. Garnacho had our best chances at Felton. We missed them. If Marcus Rashford had put in that performance, the abuse that Marcus Rashford would be getting would be off the scale. The abuse he would be getting is off the scale. Because if Marcus Rashford was tracking back yesterday, Marcus Rashford was working hard. No one talked about it, but he was. Garnacho wasn't. If Rashford was playing on the left, missing our biggest chances, throwing his arms up and not tracking back, the media would have been going mental. Absolutely mental. You know, Garnacho's doing what Rashford was getting stick for. So he needs to stop that. He needs to stop that, if I'm going to be honest as well. Why am I closing my eyes? Am I tired? Am I closing my eyes? It's probably just the lighting. To be fair, I am a little bit tired, but it's probably just the lighting. When I record in these boxes, the lighting's really bad, so it just makes me... It sounds weird, but I always look 10 times worse when I film in here than I actually do, okay? Because the lighting is shocking. I do want to talk about what the players have said on Ruud van Nistelrooy, if Ruud van Nistelrooy will be staying or not. But I do think that had, you know, Rashford put in that Garnacho performance, Rashford would have been getting done on Twitter. I tell you that as well. I thought Rashford didn't have the most effective game, but I thought when he was on the left, he looked all right. I think if those chances fell to Rashford, he finishes it. And I think that Rashford's work rate's improved. I believe Rashford can improve under Amorim, same with Garnacho. Yeah, I think with Garnacho being young, you'd expect him to improve, even if he doesn't 100% suit Amorim's system. But I think Rashford is someone that could benefit from Amorim's system. You know, I think Rashford, Hoyland, Agate, and I think actually some of the centre-backs could really benefit from Amorim's system. I think Maino could as well, actually. A little bit of midfield structure, because I think Maino's a talented player that got no support. I don't know what the news is, but people are saying, what's my thoughts on Edu leaving? Let me just take a sip of water. Yeah, there's a few stories that apparently Edu, whatever he's called, has left Arsenal. I know he's done quite a good job there in recent years, but I'd have to read up on that in more detail on why he's left and stuff. But it's probably a bit of a loss for Arsenal if I was going to give you my honest opinion. But again, not really read up much information on that whole situation. But let's dive into some more news, some more stories. The players have already spoken out about Ruud van Nistelrooy. The players have spoken about multiple things. So I do want to dive into that. We're going to talk about Ruud van Nistelrooy. Could he be staying? Could he be going? What's the situation there? But before I get into that, guys, please do go ahead and hit that like button. And, of course, subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football. If you're new, we are 18 subscribers away from hitting 97.8k, which would be great to hit. Mazraoui said this on the difference between Ruud van Nistelrooy coming in since Ten Hag's left. He said, you cannot change a lot in just 5 days, so we still do the same, but with more intensity, and that's what brings the opponent in danger to lose the ball and get the crowd going. And to be honest, it's not totally different to Ten Hag. I think Mazraoui's right here. What we're seeing right now at Manchester United isn't totally different to what we were seeing under Ten Hag at Manchester United. It's not totally different. Had Ten Hag been in charge, I don't think we beat Chelsea. I don't think we get a point versus Chelsea. I think we would have bottled it. But what he's saying is under Van Nistelrooy, there's probably a little bit more defensive structure and there's a little bit more intensity to the game. You know, it's a little bit... Van Nistelrooy can't do something massively different. He only knows he's got 4 games. There's no point massively change it up, which I think is why it's quite similar to what was going on under Ten Hag. So that's what Mazraoui's saying. But he's saying they're looking to bring more intensity, you know, get the crowd going, which is what I like to see as well. Garnacho is still learning and should be an impact sub. Same with Højlund. Rashford lacks heart and should not be treated as the main man. We should absolutely sell whole team players, individuals. I think Garnacho, Højlund and Rashford are 3 players that I rate and I think could be a key part of United in the future that I wouldn't sell. But Højlund is raw, but I think give Højlund service, I think he'll perform. Garnacho, I thought his own development needs to be on and off the bench, starting some games, on the bench other games. And Rashford, I think if he can get into 30-goal Rashford, he is the main man. But we need 30-goal Rashford, and I think Amorim can utilise him in the best areas as well. But I thought Højlund had a good game. Mazraoui's been an excellent buy, hasn't had a bad game. Yeah, Mazraoui's probably up there for signing of the season. Not had a bad game. Gayen says Garnacho just to understand that he's in a team, so you have to pass the ball. He's suffering from hero syndrome, a bit like Bruno. I mean, Bruno does pass the ball, but he just seems to pass the ball really badly lately. But I think that when Garnacho could have passed the ball to Ahmad near the end, that did wind me up. I think Garnacho is sort of in that, I don't know, maybe he wants the glory for himself sort of phase. But look, he's 20 years of age. He's 20 years of age. He's so young. He's so raw. We have to remember what Ronaldo was like and how he used to frustrate fans at that age and realise that it's just part of his development and a good coach will kick that out of him and he should develop into a good player. Continuing on. Will Ruud van Nistelrooy stay at United? It was said there's a swell of support to keep Ruud van Nistelrooy in some capacity after his period of interim manager ends. He is esteemed by United's leadership group for the way he carries himself, along with the staff that serve first-team operations. Manchester United players want Ruud van Nistelrooy to remain at the club when Ruben Amorim takes charge. They appreciate the way he has communicated with them. So we know that United players really do like Ruud van Nistelrooy. They want him to stay at the club. Now, the problem is with Amorim coming in, he is bringing in his whole coaching side, which is 5 new people on the coaching side of things, which says, oh, there might not be room for Van Nistelrooy. But what we do know is that Ruud van Nistelrooy has come in and he's communicated and built a good relationship with the players. He also knows the club. So I think for Amorim to work with, I think Ruud van Nistelrooy could be good. The way I see it is if I'm Amorim, I keep Ruud van Nistelrooy here until the end of the season, and then in the summer, Ruud goes, and then Amorim could get whoever he wants in there and there. And I just think because Ruud van Nistelrooy knows the club and he's been in since the start of the season, has a connection with the players, I think he'd be a good person to just keep around in the early stages for Amorim to phase in. Now, if Amorim decides he doesn't want Ruud van Nistelrooy, we have to back Amorim's decision and we'll have to say bye to Ruud van Nistelrooy, which would be sad because I do really like Ruud van Nistelrooy. I don't want to say a complete bye-bye to Ruud van Nistelrooy, but I can kind of understand that. But I would like Ruud van Nistelrooy to spend, but Amorim to have Ruud van Nistelrooy for his first sort of couple of months at United, because Van Nistelrooy knows the club very well and he gets on with the players, which I think is good as well. And I think it would be silly to let him go. Obviously, I know the players really want him to stay and we shouldn't give him to player power there, but it only really matters if Amorim wants him. But I think Amorim could benefit from having Ruud van Nistelrooy there, if I'm going to be honest as well. So let's continue on as well. It was said on Ruud van Nistelrooy said on Amorim that he's looking forward to getting to know him better. He did very well in Portugal and that he's looking forward to continuing to help the club progress. That's his main goal. So Ruud van Nistelrooy himself has made it very clear he wants to stay at United and he's very keen to work with Ruben Amorim and all of that. Now, Sky have said that no concrete decisions have been taken on the makeup of Amorim's backroom team yet. But the incoming head coach does want to bring in 5 of his colleagues from Sporting, including his long-time assistant Carlos Fernandez and Candido, as well as Ferro, who operate in that role. So that means, is there a role for Ruud van Nistelrooy? Because we're already going to have like 3 other people operating in his role. You know, we're going to have like 5 people doing the same thing. Is there a real need for Van Nistelrooy? But it was said that Ruud van Nistelrooy, beyond Ruud van Nistelrooy, there's also a desire for Darren Fleck, currently first team coach, to remain at United under Amorim. But I think, again, if Amorim's bringing in his own coaches, he'll probably assess that, and I think he'll look to sort of move on as well. But look, I'd like Ruud to stay, but we have to respect what Amorim wants. It was said here as well, before I came to United, this was said by Ruud van Nistelrooy, before I came to United, I was looking for a managerial role. When United came with the opportunity, it was fantastic for me. I wanted to be here, and I put that managing aside. It was a conscious decision. I want to be here and stay to help here. So Ruud van Nistelrooy has made it very clear, you know, if Amorim will take him, he wants to be here. He wants to work at United. And I'd personally like Ruud van Nistelrooy to be here and working at United. But at the end of the day, that decision is on Amorim. He's bringing 5 of his own coaches. He just might not feel a need for Ruud van Nistelrooy. It might feel overcrowded. But I think for that initial adjustment period and settling in, I think that Ruud van Nistelrooy could be really good for Amorim, just to help with that sort of getting used to the team and the adjustment and knowing the club and the culture and the fans. And he has a good relationship with the players. I think it could be a good thing to have. Continuing on as well, this was said by Van Nistelrooy. He said, on Casemiro, his performance on Wednesday and today were excellent. He scored 2 goals on Wednesday, and he gave a very good ball to Rasmus for the penalty today. He had a great game in the team. And I said this, I think Casemiro had an okay game. I thought it was fantastic versus Leicester. I thought it was okay yesterday. I think bar the Liverpool game, Casemiro has actually had quite a good season. And I think because he's been playing with Ugarte a lot, he's got a little bit more freedom to get a bit further up. So Ugarte will cover the ground and make up for his lack of athleticism, which I think at this latter stage in his career, you're probably getting the best out of Casemiro when he is playing a little bit further up and has a little bit less running to do. He then said on Ugarte, Van Nistelrooy, that he then said on Casemiro that he covered the pitch with Ugarte. He took care of the players in his sector. He balanced the team with and without the ball. He's important and he's a leader in this team. And I think, you know, one thing I wanted to touch upon and one thing I wanted to talk upon was there had been a few question marks about Casemiro's mentality. I think the back end of last season, you know, he didn't stay to celebrate the FA Cup win. He was upset that Amrabat started over him. And there was a few question marks around, is Casemiro's head really at Man United anymore? But I felt actually his head is really at United. I think bar the Liverpool game, I think that he has been good for us. I feel that he was giving a lot for us. And if I'm going to be totally honest, the way that he shouted at Garnacho and Garnacho gave the ball away and didn't track back, I think Garnacho needed that. I think that showed Casemiro's passion there. Garnacho loses the ball, he doesn't track back. Casemiro goes mental at him. I felt that Casemiro really wanted to win. I feel that Casemiro's heart is in Manchester United, and I think that's important because I think that was something I did question the back end of last season. Is his heart in it? Casemiro's heart's in it this season, and he is given 100%, and he hasn't had a bad season. You know, I think in the summer I would have sold him because of his wages, because of how he ended last season. But actually, his heart is fully in it, and he really gave a shift yesterday as well. I want to talk about Lisandro Martinez because the Telegraph is saying that the type of tackle Lisandro Martinez unleashed on Chelsea's Cole Palmer should be outlawed from football before a player is seriously injured. And there's basically this whole outrage that Martinez hasn't been sent off in a game this season. Was it the nicest tackle from Martinez? Absolutely not. But has United been done over by VAR so much this season? Yes. So I understand why it wasn't given as a red card. But now they're writing that Martinez should be banned from football. The tackles he's making is banned. And they're trying to make out that Martinez is the most dangerous, evil player in the world. And I think it's getting a bit ridiculous, this sort of attack on Lisandro Martinez by the media. I like Lisandro Martinez. He's a bit reckless at times. He shouldn't have made that tackle. But the media are going on making reports about it and making the whole game about that Lisandro Martinez tackle. And to be honest, there's so much more to talk about. It reeks of agenda for me as well. This was what was said on Garnacho by United faithfuls, and I did want to touch upon this actually. Some Man United fans need to understand that fair criticism does not mean hating or scapegoating a player. Garnacho is 20 and still has so much to learn, but doesn't mean he can't be criticised just like every other player. Young players who go on to become the best in the world must accept criticism, learn from their mistake, take their positives, improve game, just ask Ronaldo. Besides, no player is above criticism, especially when you're playing for United. Garnacho himself knows he had a bad game yesterday and I'm backing him to bounce back from that, and I agree. Garnacho didn't have a good game. He's not the sole reason we're performing badly. He's been given a lot for United lately. He needs to work on a few things. He's young. That's normal. I believe he can work on a few things. I believe that he will work and try and get better. I completely agree with that tweet there. And obviously, it was said here, Casemiro made Garnacho know what mistake he had done there. The senior most player in the United team, making sure the youngest player knows about his responsibilities on the pitch. And then Jay quote tweeted saying, after Arsenal last season, Germany thought Casemiro's heart wasn't in it anymore. But at United, but it's still obvious he gives a shit and he can be a leader. And I felt that Casemiro did put in quite a leadership performance yesterday. He was really caring. He really wanted to make something happen as well. That referee must have had money on Chelsea because some of his decisions were ridiculous. I agree. Someone said, wait, I can't find it. Someone said, nothing in that tackle. Sure, it was a bit high, but yeah, not waist high. And also, when you look at like how little contact there was, like yes, he touched him, but there wasn't any power behind it as well. You know, people are just trying to make the most out of Lisandro Martinez. Like, you know, like with Bruno or Maddison, people are trying to make the most out of it. You know, someone was saying that Bruno should be banned. What he did to Maddison was outrageous and on purpose. It's like, it wasn't. Maddison himself said it wasn't, and that Bruno shouldn't have been sent off for that. You know, it's ridiculous, the agenda that the media have against United. Guys, we've got over 600 people watching right now. We're only on 153 likes. Let's go for 300 likes. If half of you people watching right now hit that like button, we will hit the target. And of course, please do subscribe down below if you're new. I'm on 96,783 subscribers. I'm 17 subscribers away from 96.8k. So please do subscribe down below if you're new. I go live every single day on the channel. I also do 10-minute news roundup videos to talk about all the latest Manchester United talking points and more as well. But I have to say, I think going into the game, you take a point versus Chelsea, but I think because of how poor Chelsea were nowhere near the best. I think it is a little bit frustrating not to get the 3 points. Yeah, someone said, what? No. Yeah, I think it's frustrating. I think a point versus Chelsea, you'd have taken it before the game, but because of how the game played out, I would have wanted the 3 points. I would have wanted the 3 points because I felt that we had the chances to get the 3 points. Bruno missed a chance. Garnacho missed a chance. That's what I think, if I was going to be totally honest. But listen, people, I am going to wrap up the live show here. Don't want it to be super long, but look, things should be going up for United. 7 days until Amorim arrives. This time next week will be Amorim's first day, so stay positive for that. Thank you for watching. Bye.